Hi, this is Everetts Watercolors. Welcome to my classroom. Today I'm going to do another painting using a stamp set from Gina K, and I'm going to turn it into a piece of art. Make a small painting out of it. Or we can go ahead and make up another card from the card set. So we have a couple options here, depending on how well the painting comes out. We can either make a card out of it, or we can frame it and put it up as a painting, small painting. So let's go over to my painting table and let's get started. Okay, here on my painting table, I'm going to use the Gina K stamp set. It's called Delightful Daisies. Delightful Daisies. And I borrowed this from my wife's stamping collection. And she said I'd go ahead and use this and make a painting out of it. So I'm going ahead and do that. And also I'm using the Gina K Amalgam Ink, which is waterproof, because I'm going to use it on watercolor paper and with watercolor paint. So I'll use the Amalgam Ink to stamp it on a piece of watercolor paper. I'll move this aside. Here now on my painting board, which I've got tilted about 15-degree angle, let the water flow. I've stamped this on a. This is 4 inches wide and 5 1/4 inches high, like a card size, and it's on 140-pound watercolor paper, Gemini. And I'm going to tape it down here. I'm using a little bit of my green frog tape. That's a painter's tape also. So I have an option of using green or blue. Today I'll use green. And over here in my palette, I'm going to use standard colors. I'm going to show you my list of colors I'm going to use today. I'm going to start out with one of the flowers. I'm going to start out with the Opera, a nice bright red. And I'm going to use 2 reds, Opera and Alizarin Crimson, 2 red colors. And I'm going to use 2 yellows, yellow lemon and yellow ochre, a little darker yellow. Green number 1, I got a few leaves and so forth on the flowers. I'll use a green number 1. And then I'm going to use 2 blues, cobalt blue and cerulean blue, 2 light blues. I'm going to use those for the background. These are all Holbein Artist watercolors. And I'm also going to use Holbein brushes today, synthetic hair, which are very nice. And you can find all this stuff, art supplies, on my website, everettswatercolors.com. Put that aside. Okay, the 2 brushes I have, this is a number 6 round Holbein. The Holbein synthetic brush is very nice. Comes to a nice little point, but it's also a nice little brush. I like to use this one a lot. So this is a synthetic brush, and this is a number 16 round, also synthetic hair. Nice big one. Okay, and I'll show you how I use that today. These 2 brushes are all I'm going to use, and my paint on the palette. So up here, I'm going to start out with Opera, and this is yellow lemon down here, and this is green number 1. So these are the main colors I'll use in the beginning, and then we'll add in the other colors as we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with the top flower. I'm going to use the bright red, which is Opera. I'm going to go in and put those colors here. You see a nice bright red. I'm going to just fill these in. And I'm not using the masking fluid like I did last time I showed the stamp sets. And that stamp set from the mountain scene, the Spring Mountain, is out on YouTube now, and it's also my website. And you can go to my website anytime at everettswatercolors.com, and you go to the live classroom video section, and you can look at all my videos that I have produced online. And that one, the Spring Mountain, is in there already on my website. And I'm going to put this one also on it. When I finish, this is also going to be on film. I'm going to put it on YouTube, and it'll be on my website also. So all you card makers out there that also like to paint, this is this is one way to get a good practice on getting the brush out and getting the watercolors. And you could even use watercolor pencils if you wanted to color this in with watercolor pencils and then go back and add the water. So there's all kinds of ways to do that. So there's the opera. Isn't that a beautiful color? I just love that. I'll bring it up here close. And I'll turn this over to the light on too. See it better. That's a nice bright red with that top pansies. I've also I went on the internet and found all kinds of pictures of pansies, and they come in all colors. It's amazing. I found this bright red one. It's a pansy color. I don't know how many varieties of pansies and daisies. I'm sorry, I made the same mistake the last time I said it. You can do all kinds of colors of daisies. Okay, that's the first one. I'm gonna do that one. I'm gonna do that one in red. And the bottom one here, the big one, I'm gonna put in yellow. So I'm gonna start out with yellow lemon. That's another primary color. Really, I stick mostly with the primary colors because they give a lot of flexibility. I can mix them if I want to, or I can add another color to enhance colors, and I'll be doing that a little bit today. Once I get these colors down, I'll go back and make a few changes here and there. And look at this brush, this number 6 round brush. When I use a round brush, also let me point this out, that you don't use just the tip. When you load it up with paint, you go in and you actually lay the bristles down on the paper. You don't use the points only when you want to come and maybe touch up a little edge or something like that. But you use for example, this petal here. Just you lay the brush down, use the side of the brush, and that's where the paint is in the bristles, and that way you'll get the maximum use out of the brush. And you only use the point when you want to do a little fine tune on the edge, or when you come close to something, you might want to use the tip of it. But really, the round brush holds a lot of paint, and most beginners, when they're painting, they just use the tip of the brush. They'll put the tip of the brush in the paint and do that. But I recommend load the brush up, get a nice load of paint. Use the side when you load the brush. Use the side of the brush. Load it up full, and then when you paint, lay that brush down and do a brush stroke. And then don't be afraid to go back and load and use the full part of that brush, and only use the tip when you have to do a little design, little close edge or something like that. That's the only good thing about using a round brush sometimes is you can get into real close tight. If you've seen any of my other videos, I also use the flat brush, and I can use the corner of the brush just like a round. So the brushes are designed to hold the paint with enough water to do the job. So if you get used to one kind of brush, you can always change it to another, or what I recommend is using both kinds of brushes. But today I want to use just a round brush because I've used a flat brush before. And again, load that brush up on the side, and then when you do the stroke, lay it down and do the full edge use the whole part of the brush, not just the tip. Only use the tip when you want to do a little fine touch. I'm painting around these leaves down here now, so I am using the tip. I'm painting around the leaves, which I'm going to make green. Okay, that's the yellow lemon. Let me bring it up close. Isn't that pretty? That's beautiful. But I'm gonna blow dry those real quick. Okay, that'll make it easier. Keep the waiting around for it to paint to dry. Go ahead and use a blow dryer, which is a convenient tool to have. Also, I forgot to show in the beginning. I always do a value study. This is the value study I did for the mountain scene, the spring mountain. I did a value study for that before I did a painting. And over here, I did a little on the Delightful Daisies. I did a value stay, which I may do a lighter value at the top and then come down and get a little darker. I may do a graded wash going from light to dark. So I'm thinking about that before I finish this, before I start the painting. Okay. So this is some of the planning steps I do before I go into the painting session. And then all I do then, I just think once I have my value study done and I got my colors selected, then I just paint. That's I don't have to think about too much more about it. And as far as painting goes, uh, I think about the brush stroke. I think about here I'm going to use a little bit more because this is a small area. So I come use the tip of the brush. I'll come down. This green number 1, I'm making it nice and bright. This is more of a demonstration on this particular stamp set. You can use any color of green. I'm using green number 1 because it's such a nice bright color, and it really goes it goes nicely with this yellow, because next to this yellow it really bounces around really nice. It bounces right off the page. Green number 1 and lemon yellow. Wow, look at that. I'm using because it's such a small section. I'm using more of the tip of the brush on this because it's small. So I want to control where I put it. So using the tip of the brush here because it's a small space. So that's where the round brush, when you have a round brush loaded, is where you use the tip. But down here on this further area, you just lay the brush down, cover it, and just take your time. And I'm showing you here a little bit of quick, faster way to do it. Now up here, I'm going to do the same color. I could change colors, but I'm going to keep the same green. You could change colors. You can make a color a little darker, a little lighter. I may put a little yellow on top of this one. I haven't decided quite until I finish. I'll wait until I get the first layer down. Get the first layer down, and you can always go back and layer over top and add color, a little variation to it. But get your first layer down. That's the important thing. Get the first layer down, then take a look at it and see what you like. And every time you paint, it'll be you'll have a different view. You'll say, "Oh, I may like a different color or a different value." And there's little baby. Now I have to really use a tip here. These are small, really small section of leaves up here on this top flower. And I forgot the red on here, so I have to go back and put some more red in there. I forgot one section there. Okay. Okay. Well, let's take a look at that. I'm going to give you a nice close-up of that one. So we got the red, the yellow, and the green in there right now. Okay. Now I'm going to dry that because I'm going to put some paint around it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the blues. I've got the flowers done at this stage. That's the first level, first stage. And now I'm going to get the background in. And this is what I need 2 brushes for this. And the reason I'll show you that here in a minute. First color I'm going to pull out is the cerulean blue, which is a light blue, beautiful blue. I use the cerulean blue a lot for skies and water, oceans. So it's a beautiful, beautiful color. It's a light blue, a little bit on the cool side, but it's still a nice light hue, H-U-E, which is the color. And then I'm going to pick up cobalt blue. And the last painting I did on the mountain scene, I used a lot of ultramarine, but ultramarine is a little bit too dark for this painting here, so I want to keep it. Cobalt blue is really the true blue. It is the primary color that I have in my palette. Cobalt blue. It's the middle blue color. So that if you ever want to find a true primary, a cobalt blue is about as close as you can get to it. Now, a lot of other artists use other colors, Prussian blues and other colors and such. But pick a color that you like, and it meets your likes and intentions, emotions, and go with it. Okay, what I'm going to do here now, the big brush is number 16 round, is a real dandy one. Now what I do is I load that with water. Get nice and wet. And now I'm going to load the brush from the side. So I pick up the pigment. And then I go in and I'm going to, let's see, start up here at the top. Go in and start putting the color on top of this is going to be the blue background. So I get that color and I go in right up close to the edge of the subject. Whether it's a flower, or if I'm doing a landscape, it'd be maybe a landscape also. I could do the same thing. But here with a still life or with a flower arrangement, and I've got this angle that about 15 degrees, so you can see a bead that's formed here, and that's a good idea because that means a bead means the paint's gonna stay wet. If you don't have a bead, it'll start drying out on you. So that's the only thing you have to maybe think about when you're doing watercolor, is to keep enough moisture on the paint. So now I take the small brush now with just water in it, just water. I mean, it's not water. I wet it and then I put it on a paper towel, take out most of the moisture. Now I'm going to move that color in next to the edge. So now I'm coming around. Now I'm using more of the fine tip point now, but I'm moving that color that I just put on there with a large brush. I'm moving it and I'm bringing it in around the shape that I want. So I may turn the board here so I can get a better angle. But now with just this damp brush, I'm now moving the paint now next to the subject, which is the flower. And this is how you control where the paint goes with keeping the moisture on the paint, keep the moisture on the paper where you want it, and then move the paint in the direction that you want to put it. So, okay, if I get a little variation in the background, that's fine, because it's really just a background. It's not the main subject of the painting. I keep this brush loaded. It holds a lot of paint, so I can paint almost a whole card with this, almost a whole painting. And I'm going to, up here in these little spots, I'm going to put some paint in there, just a little dot. And then I'll take my brush with just water in it and just damp, because I put water in the brush, but then I hit the paper towel, or I hit the sponge to take out the excess moisture. And I go in and I control that little spot there, be darker anyway. Okay. So when I go around, I control the edges on this. And I may leave some white edges might stay there, but that's okay. That gives you a little sparkle to the painting, so I don't mind that at all. To leave some white edges here and there, that shows a little bit of. It makes it look like watercolor. If it was cut out to be perfectly around there, then it would look like a poster or a stamped on color. And here you want it to look like watercolor, so you want it to have a little bit of variation in there. And I'll check the edge up here a little bit. So leaving a little bit of whites here and there shows that it has been painted, and it's not something that was manufactured. And it also shows it's handmade. You know, watercolor should look like it was made by hand, not by a machine or printed. It should look like it was. Now I'm adding a little bit of cobalt blue now. This is going to make the color a little bit darker at the bottom. And I mentioned a graded wash, and so I'm going to just do that now. I'm going to make the bottom one a little darker. Make this area down here a little bit darker. And I thought I'd try that today on this particular painting here, just to give another. This is also an art lesson, not just painting this scene, but also an art lesson on how to paint and what colors to use and what brush strokes to have, and maybe some techniques to help you do something on your paintings. Over here, I'll pick up that cobalt blue. I'm just putting the paint down on the paper first. And then I pick up a little bit of that paint with a smaller brush because this one over here, I don't want it to get too dry on me, so I just keep it going. And these little corners in here, filled in with the small brush. And that's where this small round brush helps. It helps you get the little corners and little places that are hard to get at. So you use the smaller brush with a small point for fine detail. Now with a damp brush here, I'll turn this around. And I just use water now, and I'll just blend this out because this top section dried out just a little bit before I got to it. So all I'm doing now is just kind of putting a little moisture on the brush and just going back and blending out that color, and then continue on. So there'll be a little variation in the color, but that's fine. That'll look nice. Have a little variated color in the background. It's not changing the color, but changing the value just a little bit, and make it look like it has a little texture in the background. And I'm going to put little dots in here, and just fill the brush, put a little dot in here, and go back with a smaller brush and fill it in. Okay. And take the small brush and go and do detail. So I'll see how this graded wash works. I'll try this out. This is something a little different. But a graded wash, all it is going from light to dark as far as the color is concerned. Now, there's ochre to change the color, but I want to, that's called a variated wash. A variated wash when you change colors. Like a sunrise and sunset would have different colors. But here, I just want to have a blue color going from light to dark, or from lighter to darker. Okay. And what I'll do now is a couple of these places here, just take a damp brush and I'm just smoothing out some of these, just smoothing out, but also just adding a little more color to it to make it more homogenized. Now I'm going to take this paint off here at the bottom because I had it covered, and I'm going to have it loose here, and I'm going to take on a small brush. I'm just going to go in. I'm going to finish that off. So I remove the tape and go down and paint in the white area. And then with just a damp brush, again, just a damp brush, no, just water. Just you can smooth out that paint on the water paint. There's a little bit of movement in the background. It's got different colors. Now take a look at that. Yeah, that's okay. The important thing is that it's lighter at the top and it gets darker as we come down. It's the only thing I wanted to accomplish. And I'll go around here now, and now I can do a little bit of fine tuning, load the brush, a little bit of this cerulean blue, and I can go in and do a little bit of fine tuning. I'm eliminating some of that, a little more of that white paper. Not all of it, but just some of it. A little white edge, I'm just going over it a little bit. Then I'm coming down and kind of making sure I got the variation going. I'm just cleaning up the edges now. Going in and going a little bit in there and adding a little more cerulean blue around that edge. Just cleaning up the edge. And over here, a little blue edge on the side. Just a damp brush will smooth out the paint. Okay, I'll give you a close-up of that. Now we'll let that dry, and the variation back here is fine because it just gives you a little bit of texture look. If I used another color, it would look like trees or grass or something in the background. Okay, let me blow dry that. Okay, now here comes the fun part. I'm going to put a little bit of use this tape here, a little piece of it, and just so I'm going to put it down just so it doesn't move too much, just to hold it in place. All right, now I'm going to go in and put in some centers here. Now I missed a little bit of this opera here on this front. There's a front petal here that comes out, so I'm going to put that in first. The front petal, and then leave that alone for a minute because that's still wet. The center, I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is one of my favorite colors, but burnt sienna here. I'm going to put a little bit of that in the center of this delightful daisy. At the bottom, this yellow one will have a brown center. So this is my burnt sienna, which is one of my favorite colors. I have a video on my YouTube, which is how to mix burnt sienna out of the primaries, which is a good video to watch. And if you go to YouTube, you can just search for Everetts Watercolors on YouTube, and you'll find me. Or you can put it actually search for the video. You can video burnt sienna mixtures. Or on this one here, you can go in and do. You can put in the delightful daisy stamp set or delightful daisy painting, and it should show up on YouTube. Okay. Or the best thing to do is go to my website, and it'll be right there on my webpage. Yeah, the reason I dry that is I don't want the paint to run together at this point. All right, now on the top one, I'm going to use Alizarin Crimson, which is the other red color that I had on my list, and I'm going to put the dark red in the center of this one. And you can see the difference here. The Opera is a lighter, brighter red, where this Alizarin Crimson is a very dark, rich red. So the Alizarin Crimson I use as one of my primaries between the cobalt blue, the yellow lemon, and the Alizarin Crimson. Then that's my primary colors in my palette. The rest are all just a little bit mixtures, or different varieties. Okay, now the other thing I want to do before I'm almost finished on this, I'm going to add just a little more texture. And what I mean by texture, I'm going to add a little more definition to some of these flowers. So here I got yellow ochre, which is my other yellow. I mentioned two yellows, yellow lemon and yellow ochre. So the yellow ochre, I'm going to go in here now. I'm going to put in a little bit of definition on some of these petals are overlapping. So I'm going to put a little definition here to separate some of those petals. So that's the purpose of the darker yellow, is to go in and put a little bit of definition here between the petals. And I think that also give it a little artistic look. It also gives a chance to put a little different color in there, not just all yellow, but two different yellows, a light and a dark yellow. And this one here has a little bit of shadow here because looking at these petals, one of them they layer. There's one over on top of the other, and this one here has a layer. So the designer did a good job here on doing this this flower because there's all kinds of things to look at. Then this one here is also layered. And one more, it's this one here. You just pick them. Didn't want them all to be the same. I want to make them a little bit different also, just to give it a little variety. Now I can take that small brush again and just a damp brush. I took out the paint, hit it on a paper towel, put it on the spine. I want to spread some of this out just a little bit. So I'm just taking the wet paint. All I'm doing is just really just kind of spreading out a little bit, just kind of. So it doesn't look like a glob in there. It'll look more like it's a graded wash, where the color kind of gradually gets darker as it goes into the center. Okay, that gives an interesting little look there. And it separates those petals a little bit so they all don't look like they're all flat. If you didn't do that, it looked like it would be a flat flower instead of a three-dimensional. And also, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll take a Alizarin Crimson. I'm going up here and put a little bit of dark here between these petals, just to separate a little bit, just to show separation. That shows a little bit of variety. So again, that dark, and I'm going to take the damp brush and kind of spread that out just a little, just make so it's great, like a graded, not all in one lump, but just kind of spread that out just a little bit. And that shows a little bit of shadow on the petal because they're overlapped. Now, the only place I missed, which I'll pick up now, I'll take a little bit of this burnt sienna and a touch of cobalt blue. When I add blue to burnt sienna, it darkens it up, so that gives me a dark brown. There's a little bottom here to this flower petal, bud, and that's it. That's this section right here. The bottom of that bud. And the last thing I left out, which I'm not going to leave out, and it's the stems. So I'll take burnt sienna. I'm loading out the brush on the side, and I'm making a point. So what I roll the brush, twist and roll, and that makes a nice fine point. And I can go in here and put that. Now here's where I do use the point. When I go to a small area like the stems, there's lots of paint in that brush, so I should be able to do all three of these in just one load, because I loaded the brush on the side, so I have plenty of paint in the brush. Plenty of paint in the brush. And there's a little stem up here, a little stem right here at the top. You really have to look to find it, but it's there. Okay. Okay, that is the finished painting. Okay, I put the finished painting here behind a little mat board, and just to show you what it looked like as a finished product, as a small painting, as a piece of art. So this is the accomplishment we did today for the painting. But previously I did a couple practice ones, and put together 2 cards. This was painted very similarly to one I showed today in a demonstration, but this was mounted on a cardstock with a dark border, black border, and it's got a very similar, and with the sentiment at the bottom. And then over here on the left is another painted one, which again has a dark background around a cardstock mounted, also with a similar sentiment down here. And this I did another graded wash over here. Here I used the ultramarine blue, and that was it. I used ultramarine blue with lighter and ultramarine blue with darker. So this was done with the cerulean blue. Let's take a look at those up close. So those are the ones I had done before, and then this is the one I did today. So that gives you an idea of how I painted it, and also how it can be done. So let's go. I'll take you back over to the main camera. Okay, well, that was another fun project with using this Gina K's stamp set, Delightful Daisies. And I enjoyed doing that, and I hope you got some lessons learned from that, because painting something like that, it's a small painting, but notice I used a round brush a little bit differently. Don't use just the tip, load it up from the side, and then use the whole brush, and then use the tip just for fine detail or fine definition. As background, I wanted to make it a little different. I want to do a graded wash, going from light to dark. A little bit of change there. Keeping the paint wet as you can as it flows down. Okay, then I show a little bit of detail at the end where I darkened up some of the petals to give them a little definition and then break up the shape a little bit. So that was a fun project, and I really enjoyed doing that. So this will be posted on YouTube, and it'll be on my website on everettswatercolors.com. Go to my live classroom videos, and you can also find it there. So I hope you enjoyed that today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.